Hello, thank you for tuning into this 2016 General Election Candidate Forum for Legislative District 2, Position 1. The forum is presented by the League of Women Voters of Thurston County and TCTV. The League is a nonprofit organization that encourages the informed and active participation of citizens in their government. The League neither supports nor opposes candidates or parties. We are nonpartisan. The League registers new voters, studies issues, and advocates for its positions with the legislature. Despite its name, the League is open to both men and women of voting age. I'm Allison Brooks from the League, and I'll be moderating this forum. The candidates for Legislative District 2, Position 1 are Andrew Barkis and Amy Pavetta Hoffman. For this forum, candidates will have 2 minutes for an opening statement, then I will ask them questions in alternating order. The person first asked the questions will have 2 minutes for a response, followed by 1 minute from the other candidate. There will be 1 minute for closing statements at the end. We'll begin with opening statements from the candidates, beginning with Andrew Barkis. So thank you both for coming here today. And Andrew, please start. You have 2 minutes for an opening statement.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for this opportunity to once again be able to talk to you today a little bit about myself, about the 2nd District, and some of the issues that we're facing in our state. My name is Andrew Barkis, and in February I was appointed to serve the 2nd Legislative District as a state representative in Position 1. It is an honor to be of service to the state and the people of the 2nd District. I'm a small business owner. I own a company called Hometown Property Management. We manage about 1,200 homes here in Thurston County. I've been involved in small business for the last 20+ years in property management and a few other companies that I have. I employ 24 people and know what it means to sign a paycheck and to make sure that those people have a good, livable wage and benefits and things to support their families in the community. I've also been a long time involved in the community, serving with the Boys and Girls Club, Boy Scouts of America, and Homes First, a great organization working to end homelessness here in our county. Bringing a small business background and common sense to the political process, the legislative process, is imperative. One of those things that I bring is exactly that. You know, having fiscal conservative principles and looking at all the issues that we face. We hear a lot about revenue. We hear a lot about spending. I am working diligently, along with my counterparts in the House, to find solutions, real common sense solutions to the problems that we face here in the state of Washington. The challenges are many and the tasks are great, but I know that with continued work together we can solve the problems that we're facing here in our state of Washington. It is an honor to serve, and I look forward to talking to most of you and getting out there and meeting you throughout the district. And I'm looking forward to this opportunity to answer some questions today at this great forum. Thank you.
Thank you. Amy, you have 2 minutes for an opening statement.
Amy Pavetta Hoffman. I'm a resident of the Thurston Community in southeast Pierce County. I'm a business attorney. I represent almost exclusively small businesses throughout Western Washington. I'm also a small business owner. I own my firm. Public service is also a very important part of my life in the last 10 years. I was appointed by the Pierce County Council to the Frederickson Land Use Advisory Commission. I served as president of the Frederickson Clover Creek Community Council, and in 2013 and 15 I was elected to the Bethel School Board. My work on the board has shown me how a budget of over $230 million does not go far enough to serve almost 19,000 students in one of the biggest districts in the state of Washington. I am also running to bring balance to the district. The 2nd Legislative District has a delegation in Olympia now that consists of rural residents, when almost the majority of our voters in the district are suburban in nature and live in either southeast Pierce County or northern Thurston County in the Lacey, Hawks Prairie area. I'm also running because I know we can do better. I know we can do better to fund an equitable and fully funded education for our children. I know we can do better for working families and providing living wages and resources for them. I know we can do better to make sure that seniors feel safe in their own homes, and I know we can do better for everyone in providing a transportation system that gets everyone to school and to work safely. So I look forward to questions today also. Thank you.
Thank you both. Andrew, you'll get the first question, and you'll have 2 minutes to answer. The State Environmental Policy Act, known as SEPA, is a complicated law involving multiple agencies designed to properly consider the impacts of a project on the natural and the cultural environment. Are there any changes that you would make to SEPA?
Well, thank you. That's a big question because there are so many people and so many departments that are involved in the SEPA process. I do know in talking to a lot of people, a lot of developers, a lot of people trying to help with the affordable housing crisis that we're facing not only in our district but also throughout the state of Washington, that the process has become more and more complicated throughout the years. Layers and layers and layers of regulatory environment makes it sometimes impossible to get through that particular process. I think the SEPA process needs to be looked at along with many other areas within the development process to be able to take care of and streamline a lot of those things. Now, most of the people I talk to say that it is very important that we do have these regulatory environments in place to protect our natural surroundings and protect the environment that we live in. However, we must make sure that's tempered with some common sense and also allows for those projects to move forward in a timely manner and that they can be, so that we can answer and deal with some of these problems that we're having. So yes, it does need to be looked at. Yes, it does serve a role and a purpose within the process of building and developing, but it would be something that I would probably look into a little bit further. Thank you.
Thank you. Amy, you have 1 minute for a response.
The SEPA process has kind of fallen down on the job as far as community involvement and allowing the community in the immediate area of any project to really know what's going on and have an opportunity for a voice. This should be changed. We need better involvement with community, better notification, longer comment periods, and more accessible ways to comment by the public.
Thank you. Okay, question 2. Amy, you'll get to take this question first for 2 minutes.
Okay.
It is absolutely clear that the state lacks the revenue to comply with the Supreme Court's ruling on basic education and the federal court's ruling on culverts without reducing other major areas of government, such as education, corrections, and social services. How will you solve the need for additional revenue?
Well, this would be a multifaceted approach. The budget needs to be looked at line by line to find where we can find some savings. In particular, sunsetting and clawback provisions for loopholes for corporations who don't perform as promised as a result of tax advantages that they have. Also, we do need to look at new avenues for revenue. I know that closing loopholes is not going to be simply enough. Things like capital gains taxes are on the table. There are also many other opportunities there. I think the important thing is not just looking at, I guess my point is there's no silver bullet for the amount of money it's going to take for education. We need to set benchmarks in place and make sure that we're meeting them. And only when we are able to show that we're providing an equitable and quality education for our K-12 program will we know that we've spent enough. Needs to be tempered with reasonableness, though, I do believe. And as far as throwing the culverts in there is also an interesting aspect. My question or my answer for funding that as well would be similar to any funding challenge that the state has in front of them, looking at programs that don't work so well, sunsetting those and looking for other revenue opportunities.
Thank you. Andrew, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. It is a complicated task, but I can tell you right now that the state of Washington has a $40.4 billion budget. We just received recent information saying that this next biennium that we're going to see about a $339 million in additional revenue coming into the state of Washington. So we have revenue flowing into the state of Washington, and what happens is the priorities of government. It is a constitutional mandate to fully fund education first, and that's where we need to start, and that's the work that has been done over the last several years. We've seen the increase on the general fund to 48% of the general fund now going towards education, $18 billion. So we need to look at the revenue that we're already taking in. We need to look at all the programs, and we need to prioritize government to make sure that these things are getting taken care of. As far as the culverts go, it is a huge program that is federally funded and also within the state, that we need to do that for our salmon recovery program that is in place. We need to be looking at that, but again, we need to take into consideration the priorities and be able to budget accordingly.
Thank you. So Andrew, you'll get the next question and you'll have 2 minutes. What additional safeguards can the legislature put in place to protect citizens and the environment from the oil and coal trains that pass through our communities?
Well, as we know, Washington State is unique. Well, I guess not necessarily unique, but it has a huge transportation network of railroads coming through that have been here for over 100 years since they came across in the Transcontinental Railroad. Millions and millions of dollars worth of commerce moves daily across the rails throughout the state of Washington. Commodities back and forth between the East and West Coast. Some of those commodities are coal, and they are also now oil because of the recent discoveries in the Balkans and that oil being brought forth for refineries that we have here on the West Coast. Coal is somewhat declining in its rail traffic. As a matter of fact, it's declined significantly over the last several years because of the move away from coal and the burning of coal for the production of power. Coal is still being exported, and I think one of the things that needs to be looked at is where is that going? And as we talk about the usage of that coal going to foreign countries and maybe as a part of that conversation. The bigger question is the oil trains. Oil trains coming through our area do pose a hazard, and more has to be done, but it is on a federal level because the Commerce Act that goes along with that and controlling that has to make sure that safeguards are put in place. I know that recently in talking with one of the unions that does that, they are asking for additional crews and additional safety measures being put in place on those particular trains that are hauling oil across the state of Washington. And it couldn't be any clearer than the example we saw recently in Oregon with the derailment that caused the fire down there. So more things need to be done. The legislature needs to be looking and working in conjunction with our partners to make sure that oil and other commodities that are being transported across our state are done safely, but also to allow that to come through to make sure that we can continue doing what is necessary on the import and export and commodities that spur the economic growth of our region and the country.
Thank you. Amy, you have a minute, and if at any time either of you need me to repeat the questions, I'm happy to do so. Amy.
Thank you. I agree with Andrew. These are valid concerns with the oil and the coal industry and transport through Washington, but these are issues that are regulated at a federal level. So it is incumbent upon the state to work with federal regulators to ensure that citizens and the environmental safety is preserved for transport. These trains are very important to our ports and to our global economy and our role in that global economy. So we do need to work better with the federal government to ensure the safety of this transport.
Thank you. Okay, Amy, question 4. The state does not have adequate resources to adequately care for the mentally ill. How are you proposing to address this problem? You have 2 minutes.
Mental health is a problem that the state is facing. It's one of the higher priorities of the state, I believe, at this present time, along with education. I think that, like education, the state has not fully backfilled the funding that was cut from the recession, and it needs to be looked at more seriously now and fully funded. Washington has a regressive tax system, and I think that there are some ways that we can revise our tax system to provide better funding for both education and mental health, but not on the backs of our small businesses or working families.
Thank you. Andrew, you have 1 minute.
Mental health in the state of Washington is a priority. It's a priority that should be on the same level as we talk with our school issues. And recently it's become even more apparent with the connections between mental health and addiction and the rise of addiction within our neighborhoods and our communities. Mental health funding is on a rise and has been funded significantly increase in funding over the last several years, but maybe not to the levels that is needed. We need to make sure that the resources are there, but more importantly, we need to make sure that the accountability is there. Most of you know about the issues that we've had with Western State Hospital, failed audits, failed accreditation, and the problems that go from there. More regional control and more regional assets using the dollars from the state of Washington going to our local partners. We have phenomenal resources within our communities to deal with mental health. The state legislature last year in the sessions that I was working through, we did start that process by establishing some new RSNs and the programs that are working at the community level to make sure that the resources and everything is getting to there. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrew, question number 5. You get to begin. The tragic shooting at the mall in Burlington, Washington is another example of gun violence that we have been facing in Washington and across the nation. Do you support Initiative 1491? Why or why not? And how do you propose to keep our citizens safe from gun violence? You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I'd like to first start by offering my condolences to those families and my prayers for all the law enforcement and the people that were affected by this senseless tragedy that we just saw unfold in Burlington. We've seen lately all over the nation these shootings happening, and now it's in our own backyard. It does bring into the question, what can we do? How do we stop this violence? Would another gun law stop this person from acquiring a weapon to carry out what he needs to do? I'm not sure that that would actually be the case. This person had problems. We don't know what they are. We don't know the reason for it. We don't know why he decided to go in there and do that. He did. And in this case, he used a weapon to carry out that attack. This new initiative that's been put forth, I do not support this initiative in the manner in which it's written. I am a law-abiding citizen. I'm an outdoorsman. I have been a member of the NRA for a long time, and I have been in training situations. I have also owned firearms that are registered and everything, law-abiding. And millions and millions and millions of other citizens in this country do the same thing. Those that are non-law-abiding are gaining access to weapons, and an initiative, a law on the table may not, cannot, and in some cases won't prevent that from happening. We need to make sure that the laws that are existing today are upheld. Those laws are enforced, and those laws are strict with strict punishments so that it doesn't happen in this manner. But I think it goes back to the question we just had. What we're finding is a lot of these things have to do with mental health, with addiction, with problems that we're seeing throughout our communities. So we need to get to the root cause of what's happening in these issues and solve those problems there. And maybe, just maybe, we can prevent something like this from happening in our own backyard.
Thank you, Andrew. Amy, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. This is not the first time that this has happened in Western Washington. If you recall, we had the issue up in the Everett area in Marysville a couple of years ago. This is happening over and over again in our area as well as nationwide. I do support 1491. I've signed that initiative. And the reason is I believe that those who seek to hurt others or themselves should not have access to guns. Law-abiding citizens, as Andrew mentioned, they have a right to arms, but that right ends when you seek to hurt yourself or others. My husband and I have guns in our home, and we're responsible owners, and responsible ownership is key. I think that the aim of 1491 is the same, is that it's responsible gun ownership, and I think that we need more education in our communities about responsible gun ownership.
Thank you, Amy. Okay, question 6, Amy, you can start. State parks and other natural and cultural resource agencies have been underfunded for numerous years. Will you support additional funding for state parks and other state agencies that protect natural and cultural resources? 2 minutes.
I do support state parks and additional funding. We only have one state park in our district, which is the Nisqually State Park, which has taken over 30 years to get built, and it's just now getting off the ground. We also in the district have a lack of county parks and have 1 or 2 federal parks as well. We do need more at the state level. The nature of our district, which is part rural, part suburban, doesn't have the history with parks that more rural or urban areas, excuse me, have. And so this is a good opportunity to develop parks that our newer populations moving into the district can enjoy and enjoy the area forever.
Thank you. Andrew, you have 1 minute.
Well, we are truly blessed in the state of Washington to have some of the most beautiful state parks in the country. And I've been enjoying them for years, and as a Boy Scout I've had the opportunity to camp, and we're actually friends of Lewis and Clark State Park, and our troop goes down every year and does a service project down there helping clean up. I do support making sure that the funding is adequate for our state parks to make sure that they're getting what they need to maintain them at the high quality level. And we've seen a great improvement over the last several years as they've started to stand on their own by using the Discover Pass to make sure that the funding source is reliable and continual for them. We've also seen new partnerships with the tribes. The Nisqually State Park that just came into fruition, the newest state park in the state of Washington, happens to be in the 2nd District. And we've seen these partnerships also throughout the area with the Skokomish tribe out in Lake Cushman. Some great opportunities to work with private partnerships, tribal partnerships, and others to make sure that the funding is there to maintain the incredible state park system that we have. I look forward to continuing to work on that issue as a state representative.
Thank you, Andrew. And for our last question, question 7, Andrew, you get to start. This is sort of a bit of a segue here. Climate change is a concern and affecting our communities across the United States, including here in Washington. Tribal nations along our coastline have been affected by climate change as they've been losing some land mass. What can you propose in the legislature that can help Washington reduce the impacts of climate change?
Well, the state of Washington, for years, even before this issue really took on the buzz that it has now, and I, for lack of another word, but the state of Washington has always been at the forefront of climate change and climate issues that affect things, whether it's working with our industries to reduce pollutants, whether it's working to make sure that the gasoline and the usage of fuels that we use and we burn. But the truth of the matter is this, that Washington State contributes about 0.3% of the overall carbon that's going on. We have an issue that's being put forth right now that's a carbon tax, which is a huge, could be an absolutely huge detriment to the business economy of the state of Washington. We need to continue to look at things and do things legislatively to make sure that we are following through with the rules and regulatory environment that's been put in place to make sure that we are protecting our climate and our environment to the best of our abilities. We have great departments. The Department of Ecology is, for one, that's working diligently to make sure these things are happening. You know, the tribes are at the forefront of this. They're watching these different things. And again, I speak to the partnerships that we have with very many different organizations to work on these issues. But at the end of the day, Mother Nature really does make the determining factor on how the climate and what's going on within our country. We've seen year after year differences in our weather, differences in things, and just by the time we think we have one of them solved, we have another issue going on. Other thing I would like to say is this. Hydroelectric power is a green resource. It is a renewable resource and should be designated as such. We're working with hydroelectric, wind, solar, and other renewable resources to power our state now and into the future. These steps, along with others, are working to make sure that our climate and our environment is protected for my generation and many, many generations to come.
Thank you, Andrew.
You bet.
Amy, you have 1 minute.
Sure. We've recently had our hottest summer on record. Climate change is real, and it's not going to do anything. It's not going to change unless we do something to reduce it, including at the state level, where we have the obligation to do that as citizens of Washington State. Regarding working with the tribes, I know about the Hoh tribe at the Hoh River and having to move the village and issues out at Quinault in the same vein. And they worked strongly with the state and the federal government to move their villages, or the Hoh River, or Hoh tribe in particular, moving their village away from the water. We need to continue our relationships between the state and the federal government to provide funding and to look at these issues and to make sure that we don't have people in harm's way where there are potential climate change consequences. As a state, we also need to reward innovation for new environmental processes and industries, job training, innovation for new industries altogether.
Thank you. Well, Andrew and Amy, we actually have a little more time. I'm going to ask you one more question for 1 minute each, and then I'll give you your chance for closing statements. Both of you talked about perhaps closing some programs in order to raise revenue. If you look at the budget, you will know that there's only a few places you can go, and that would be either education, K-12 or higher ed, social services, or corrections. Going into natural resources or anywhere else won't even get you close if you understand the budget fully. So for 1 minute each, I would like you both to respond and tell me what programs in the areas you can cut, again, you're in education, corrections, or social services, that's it. What programs would you look at for cutting? I'll start with Andrew. Andrew, you have 1 minute.
Well, thank you. Thank you for an opportunity for another question. You know, we have to look at the budget from the zero budget-based, perspective. We start there, we work our way back, and we look at how the money is being spent. Making cuts is always the toughest thing to do in any budget. As a small business owner, I went through the recession. I looked at those issues and had to determine where our income was coming from and the areas that we could hold on to and those areas that we had to cut back on. Any one of the things that you mentioned, of course, education, and we're going to be working on that nonstop. So we have to look at how those dollars are being spent and how they're being allocated before we look at cutting. Corrections, same thing. All the things you mentioned, social services, corrections. I do believe that departments and other resources, other areas where those dollars are being appropriated to, whether it's Department of L&I, ecology, or other areas, can be reviewed so those dollars can be allocated better. So it's a tough question, but we have to look at everything. And if there are cuts that need to be made, it's more along the lines of reallocating those dollars properly.
Amy, you have 1 minute.
We need to look across the board at efficiency in our organizations across the state of Washington. I think also too with corrections in particular, we need to look at alternatives in our court system rather than throwing low-level criminals in jail, expanding drug court programs, problem gambling programs, mental health programs. I think these are all ways that we could make our correction system run more efficiently and save some money for programs that really do need it, including education and mental health.
Thank you, and thank you both for joining us today. Andrew, you have 1 minute for a closing statement, and then Amy.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you to the League of Women Voters for this opportunity to speak to you today. It is an honor to be of service. I've been serving my community for over 20 years in various capacities, and the next logical step was to take that service to public service to serve the citizens of the 2nd District and also the state of Washington. I'm happy to work, and I have a proven track record of that work, whether it's with the Lacey Chamber of Commerce or other organizations or on my own business track record. And now I have a proven track record within my work in the last several months as a state representative, working in a bipartisan fashion to make sure that the laws and the things that we need to do together in the state of Washington. For years we've been seeing all these things slow us down and prevent us from a lot of things going on within the House to get things done. It's time for a bipartisan approach. I bring that to the state of Washington with a business background and common sense, and I look forward to serving the people of the 2nd District. You can find out more about me at electandrewbarkus.org. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew. Amy, 1 minute for a closing statement.
Thank you. Again, my name is Amy Pavetta Hoffman. I do have a history of public service. I've been elected twice now to the Bethel School Board. We've done some great work, and I would love to take that experience and passion that I have for my public service work to Olympia on your behalf. My website is electamy.org, and would love to speak with you personally.
And thank you both again for joining us. Thank you to our candidates for their participation, and thank you to Thurston Community Media for producing this show. From Thurston Community Media and from the League of Women Voters, we encourage you to vote in the general election on November 8th. Please, please vote. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.